Elder Inti paced restlessly in his living room, the ticking of the clock heightening his anticipation. It had been 3 long years since he had last seen his beloved daughter, Araba, who had left for a master's program abroad. Araba had always been a daddy's girl, and the ache of missing her had grown deeper with each passing day. But today, his heart was filled with joy. His daughter was finally coming home. Not only was Araba returning with a degree, but she had also shared exciting news during one of their calls. "Dad, I met someone. He's as wonderful as you," she had said, and those words had stuck with Elder Inti ever since. The thought that Araba met someone, and even fell for him, increased his ecstasy, making him more eager to meet the man who had captured his daughter's heart. As he was pacing, his wife Mary came. She asked him to assist her in setting up the table. "They'll be here soon," she said, smiling at her husband's excitement. As they arranged the plates, the sound of a car horn echoed through the house, signaling their arrival. "That must be them," Mary exclaimed. They rushed outside, and there she was, Araba, standing beside her brother, and the man they had all been eager to meet. Elder Inti's heart swelled with joy. He couldn't hold himself back anymore. He quickly embraced his daughter tightly, savoring the moment. After the warm greetings, Araba introduced the man at her side. "This is Timothy Duncan, the one I told you about." Timothy was greeted warmly. As they settled into the house, Araba excitedly showed off her engagement ring. "He proposed." She beamed. They were all excited and congratulated them. Dinner was pure bliss as they talked about each other's families and lives. Araba shared how she and Timothy met at a cafe. He had offered to buy her coffee, and from there, they became friends, which later blossomed into love. Timothy, a black British man of African and Caribbean descent, charmed the family with his politeness and intelligence. It was a night of happiness until the unexpected happened. A sudden commotion broke the jovial atmosphere, when a woman barged into the house, holding a baby. The security had tried to stop her, but Elder Inti, taken aback, allowed her to speak. "Take your baby," the woman demanded angrily, with her eyes blazing with accusation. Everyone froze, assuming she was referring to Kwamena, Araba's older brother. But what came next shocked them all. "Don't pretend you don't know me, Elder Inti," the woman said, her voice filled with rage. "Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Priscilla, and I have a baby with your father." Elder Inti stood rooted to the spot, flabbergasted. His wife, Mary, looked at him, demanding an explanation. Elder Inti recounted how he had once helped a distressed woman he found crying on the roadside months ago. She had been evicted and was homeless. So, he arranged temporary accommodation for her, and later helped secure her a place to stay. "But I never had an affair with her," he insisted. Mary's eyes narrowed in disbelief. "Then why didn't you tell me any of this?" "I didn't think it was important," Elder Inti replied with regret in his voice. Priscilla, however, was relentless. She told a different story. She narrated how they had a secret affair, got pregnant, and the heartache of being abandoned by him. The family was divided in their reactions. Mary was devastated. Kwamena silently judged his father, and Araba, though shaken, thought the woman's story was too good to be true. Elder Inti firmly denied the accusations, standing by his innocence. Timothy, sensing the tension, calmly suggested a solution. "Why don't we conduct a paternity test? That will settle this." Surprisingly, Priscilla agreed to the test, showing no signs of fear. Elder Inti, though deeply hurt by the accusations, agreed as well, understanding the need to clear his name. The test was arranged for 2 days later, and the matter was to be kept confidential. Given Elder Inti's respected status at church and in the community, That night, Araba couldn't sleep. The joyful day had turned into a nightmare, and she found herself replaying the day's events in her mind. As she got up to get some water, she overheard a hushed conversation. Tiptoeing closer, she discovered Kwamena speaking on the phone. "Just trust me, Priscilla. Everything will be fine," he spoke. Upon hearing the name Priscilla, she knew something fishy was going on. She hid and listened intently. "Don't worry, everything will go according to plan. We'll switch the baby's sample with mine. And by the time they try to contest the results, it'll be too late. I would have publicized it already," Kwamena assured Priscilla. Araba's heart raced. She had uncovered a sinister plot between her brother and Priscilla to frame their father. She quickly texted Timothy. The next day, together, they devised a counterplan. They would switch Kwamena's sample with Timothy's to expose the scheme. The day for the test arrived. A cheek swab was taken from both the baby and elder Inti. Priscilla ranted about her demands if they match a car, house, trips, etc. In a moment of distraction, Kwamena switched the sample. Araba also switched Kwamena's sample. When the results came in, Priscilla smugly declared victory. As the test showed a match, Mary was devastated, her trust in her husband crushed, while Kwamena masked his satisfaction. But Araba couldn't stand it any longer. Furious, she revealed the truth about Kwamena's plot, accusing him of orchestrating the entire scheme. Kwamena denied it vehemently. "If you have any conscience left, you will tell the truth. If our family tear apart, it will be your fault, and I will never forgive you," she said angrily and stormed out of the house. From that moment their joy dimmed. They avoided each other. The house was filled with silence. Kwamena, seeing the repercussion of his action, became remorseful. He confessed to his dad, who dragged him to his mother. He further explained that he had been in financial trouble, owing money to loan sharks after a failed investment. Desperate, he had conspired with Priscilla, who had coincidentally met Elder Inti months earlier, to stage the paternity fraud in hopes of securing money from the family. The revelation left the family in shock. Mary was heartbroken by her son's betrayal, and Elder Inti was stunned that his own child could deceive him. Despite the bitterness of the situation, the family eventually forgave Kwamena. A week passed. One day, as they played tennis together, Araba joked about the switched samples. "I still can't believe you re-switched the sample, crazy guy," she teased Kwamena, who replied, "I didn't switch anything back." That statement struck Araba, sparking her curiosity. Unable to let it go, she sent the samples for another DNA test. This time, for Timothy and her father. The results were shocking. A match. Confronting her father, Araba demanded the truth. Everybody was confused. They didn't understand why Tim's DNA would match Elder Inti. In the moment of the confusion, Tim stepped aside to make a phone call. "Mom," he asked with a dry throat, "am I adopted?" His mother's firm denial left him more bewildered. He pressed further. "Then, why does my DNA match my fiancé's father?" There was a heavy pause on the line. Finally, his mother replied, "We will talk about it when you return home." He needed answers, but it was far out of his reach. His frustration deepened. Elder Inti finally spoke. Decades ago, he had migrated to USA in search of a better life. But it was harder than he imagined. Life became tough. He struggled to make ends meet, coupled with family's pressure back at home to send them money, suffocated him. He did multiple jobs, longer hours, but it seemed not to be enough. One day a co-worker suggested a way for him to get extra income. Sperm donation. He did it for a couple of years till he had a stable life. Timothy, it seemed, was one of the children born from his donations. That is the only plausible explanation I can give. Elder Inti's voice cracked as he finished, his gaze dropping to the floor in shame. The revelation was a bombshell. Tim stood frozen. Mary, Araba's mother, gasped, disbelief etched into her. She couldn't believe he kept this secret from her. Tim, still reeling, tried to comprehend. Nothing made sense anymore. Kwamena pointed to the elephant in the room. So, are you still getting married? He said sharply. Araba, though overwhelmed, said solemnly, the wedding will proceed as planned. She bolted out of the house in tears. That night Elder Inti waited for Araba, but she never came home. He called her countless times, but she didn't answer. The next day, Tim met Mary privately at a quiet bar. She urged him to call off the wedding and leave, but Tim was adamant, proposing they pretend nothing has happened and move forward. Mary further persuaded him, showing him scientific articles about a possible inbreeding, which could have dire complications on their future children. But he dismissed her words and walked away. He secretly met Araba. They both professed their undying love for each other, promising to stay together regardless. They planned to abandon everything and elope together. They left the hotel to the house. At lunch, Elder Inti was absent, yet there was a deafening silence. After lunch, Araba and Tim felt drowsy. Mary and Kwamena stood there looking at them with a mischievous smile. They had drugged the food. What have you done? Araba murmured before collapsing to the floor. When they woke up, they were both locked up in their separate rooms. The rooms were empty, with their passport, phones and any means of escape gone. They banged the door calling for help. Kwamena's voice came through. You'll get your freedom only if you agree to leave and never return. This abomination must end. Tim threatened them that he will have them arrested. 2 agonizing days passed before Elder Inti returned. When he heard what Mary and Kwamena had done, though not in concordance, he pretended to be. The next day Kwamena and his mother left for the market. He quickly went to pick the keys and opened the doors. He gave them their passports and some money. Go while you still can. They left immediately. As he watched them leave, he stood there without knowing whether what he did was right or wrong. He just had a profound regret. His single decision years ago has torn apart his family he has tried to protect all these years. He wondered, how is it possible? What were the odds my children will meet and falling in love? Maybe it is my kismet, or bad luck, or simply the consequence of my choices. He took a deep breath, knowing this may be the last time he ever sees his beloved daughter.